seems like every other day I'm getting an email or a snail mail letter telling me how some account that I have has been compromised or broken into. And these companies, they're telling you about it way after the fact most of the time. And that's understandable because when something happens, everybody's gonna have questions and they have to give you data about what happened, when it happened, who it affected, how it affected you, and the whole timeline. So that makes sense, but it doesn't make it any easier for me to have confidence in the system. So at this point, I'm of the belief that none of my accounts are secure, all of my data is in the wild, and everybody has it. This is for legitimate companies, so all of the banks, they talk to each other. When you make a transaction with a vendor, they're gonna talk to the banks, and sometimes vendors talk to each other, and they're transferring this data. When you sign up for something, sometimes when they authenticate you, you have to use a third-party service, something like Plaid, and they do the brokering of how you're gonna get in there and conduct your business. But this just means that these legitimate companies, they all have your information. And then there are the big three credit reporting agencies, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. They have all the information. And then aside from them, there's some credit reporting agencies out there that a lot of people may not know about. Something like LexisNexis. And they're doing stuff in a different way, like your driving habits and a host of other things. They're recording all of this personal data. So from my way of thinking, all of my data is already out there. I can't do anything about it because the system is the system. And so you have to figure out where you want to fight your battle. And for me, it makes sense for me not to worry about all of the data that's out there with those groups. And those are the legitimate ones. There are also a bunch of illegitimate things out there. So the dark web, your most sensitive stuff, like your name, your username, the accounts that you have, your date of birth, your address, your social security number, all of these things have been compromised for millions of us. So I think it would be foolish and asinine for me or anyone to think that you're secure in any fashion. So with that said, where do you fight your battle? And for me, if there's the outside, if I look at my ecosystem that I think is mine, that I want to protect, that's my house, then I'm going to say ingress and egress points are where I'm going to spend my time. The username and password and multi-factor authentication. Platforms have more sophisticated tools and additional tools that will help me secure my environment. I want to use them. And for the longest time, it's always puzzled me how come banks seem to have the worst authentication mechanisms. Like, they didn't even try, man. Like, Fidelity is one of the biggest brokerages on the planet. And the same thing goes for some of the others, Charles Schwab and E-Trade. And so the technology has been there and they've just been behind. So I was pleasantly surprised when here recently, Fidelity introduced something that makes sense and something that should have been in place, especially for something like money. I mean, you're talking about your life savings in some instances, and they didn't have what I would consider to be the basic protections that anybody else would have had in the last 5 years. And so one of the other features that I want to talk about specifically is the money transfer lock that they've implemented. So that right there, to me, is somewhat of a game changer for an added layer of security, because when it comes to these security concerns, there's something called defense in depth that you want to integrate. What that simply means is that you're going to have layers of security that somebody, a threat actor, has to traverse in order to get to the prize, in order to get to the thing you're trying to secure. And so your username and password, that's a level. And if you have a second layer of authentication, whether that's a text or a phone call, that's another layer. And maybe you go to an authenticator app, that's a layer. So all of these things together, in addition to you just having generally good security hygiene by not using the same password for multiple different sites and entities, maybe using a password manager, all of those are layers of your defense in depth program. But for Fidelity directly, how do you get there? How do you use this? Well, you're gonna go to fidelity.com and you're gonna hover over the accounts and trade piece and scroll down to security settings and click that. And the first thing that pops up when you get there is they have this little dashboard that gives you a basic score of how you're doing on the checklist that they have. And those 5 tools are the username and password, the mobile number, email address, MFA, and e-delivery. And we'll take a look at each one of these modules here. First up is the login information. Username and password here, obviously you want to set the most robust password that you can. Whatever complexity rules that they have identified for you, that you use those. So if there's special characters, you don't want to be using the same character 3 times in a row or any kind of pattern. And most good password managers, they're going to obfuscate that for you. They're going to choose rules and have things set up where your password is going to be, pretty bulletproof. But password and username information for this first widget. The next widget is the trusted devices. It's going to give you a list of anything that you've checked that little box that says, this is a trusted device, and the next time I log in, don't worry about authenticating the device, just authenticate me based on my credentials. But you'll see a list of things here in that section. Now, for some reason, you look in here and you see devices that you don't have, you'll know that something is wrong. Also, if you see a date in here that doesn't jive with when you might have been using it, that may be wrong. At a minimum, if you have any concerns, remove all of the devices that are in there and then log back in and then monitor and see if things start popping up that you know for a fact that you're not using and nobody else should be either. And that would be a concern, and you can reach out to Fidelity to inform them of it. Next up is the multi-factor authentication that you use at login. Pretty much everybody's going to have something like either a text message or email that you can use to authenticate when you're going into a secure site. That's good if you got nothing else, but if there are other things that you can use, you want to use those things as well. And below the text is the Authenticator app. Definitely want to turn that on. And as I said before, it was mind-boggling to me that most of the banks I deal with didn't have an Authenticator app option for you to use when you were securing your account. So I'm glad that Fidelity finally turned this on. Next up, login history. And this shows the most 20 recent logins to the Fidelity site. And it gives the OS and a timestamp and the base browser version that you're using. I'm only using one computer for this. Let's go in here and take a look at what it looks like. The only computer that I've used for this is my Mac, and it has the timestamps over here. If for some reason I started seeing different operating systems like a Windows box or a Linux box or timestamps that didn't make sense because I was monitoring that will alert me that there was a problem there, and I would need to address that and probably again reach out to Fidelity to put a countermeasure in place. So this next piece, and the one that I'm really most excited about, and the main reason I'm making this video, is the money transfer lock. And this stops all electronic transfers out of your account. As I said before, this might have been in play already. It might have been something that they were using or had available to me that I wasn't leveraging, but I know about it now and I'm leveraging it. And let's take a look at the accounts that I have turned this on for. So I have it turned on for 3 accounts, and all you have to do is just check the box. And once you check the box, it's turned on for it, and now no money is coming out of that account for you. There are some scams out with ACATS where people are getting access to people's bank accounts through another brokerage. Like they'll create another account under that person's name with another brokerage, issue an ACATS transfer, and then all your stuff at the one brokerage goes over to the scammer's brokerage. Then you just lost all your stuff. And if they convert it to like a cryptocurrency or something like that, you're probably not going to get that money back. Let's click learn more. Let's see what learn more says. Okay. All right. So yeah, this is good right here. So I'm glad I didn't reach out to support, because I'd have been wasting their time and mine. It's kind of like when you go to a message board and you put a question in there and they start flaming you, telling you, hey man, read the post, or this has been answered before, or do more research. Right here, it's actually answering the question that I had. Transfer of shares and assets to another institution. So, and that's going to cover ACATS. It doesn't explicitly say that, but ACATS is a transfer of your shares and assets to another institution. So there you go. Other things that it protects: outbound money transfers, previously scheduled electronic funds transfers from your account may still be processed. So anything that you had already previously set up, that could still go through. But once you turn this on, there shouldn't be anything new that's popping up. Transfers between Fidelity accounts, transfer of shares and assets to another institution, and individual withdrawal. So it's pretty much putting everything on lockdown for you. What's not protected: depositing transfers into your Fidelity account, check writing and direct debit, debit card ATM transactions, trading, scheduled required minimum distributions, personal withdrawals, and bill pay. So it looks like the stuff that you initiate ad hoc or like point of sale stuff can still go through depending on the type of account that you have. But for these really large accounts that I don't have a debit card or any kind of credit card or anything like that associated with them. And that's something that I think everybody should take a look at implementing if you have a Fidelity account. Now, for the accounts that you use in a tactical fashion, like your savings account or checking account that you process your bills and you're moving money around a lot, I probably wouldn't turn it on for that type of account because I want money going in and out of that account. But for my vaulted accounts, repositories, yeah, I don't want stuff going out of there. I just want stuff going in there and I just want it to sit. The next couple of modules, and just to cover these really quickly: security text alerts. You can set up alerts for several things. And for me, I want to see everything that's going on. Here they said they have the security and service section. So all the security texts, I want to get those. I don't care too much about the customer service status updates. So that one's left blank for me. But all these other ones, trading and margin, I want to know about anything that happens in regards to this. I don't do anything with margin. So I absolutely want an alert sent to me if something starts happening that's margin related. I need to know about that because that means there's something I need to investigate. Debit card transactions, I want to know about those. I want to know about all of them. If you're only concerned about a certain dollar amount, you have the ability to specify that here with the transactions over a certain dollar amount. But for me, I like to know everything that's going on. And then finally, deposits and withdrawals. I want to know about all of that stuff. Any activity happening on any of my accounts, I want a message on it, alert me to what's happening. It only takes a second for me to look at my phone and see if it's something I was expecting, planned on, or initiated. And if it's not something that I was expecting, then I can look at it and see if, there's something amiss or if it's legitimate. Sometimes with certain online vendors, I might order something or several things, and because of how they process it, I might not get charged immediately for that thing. For example, if I order something on Amazon, there have been times where I ordered several things in my list, in my cart, and they don't charge you until it's been processed or the shipping is in play. And so you'll get these charges kind of filtering in at different times. And I get the alert. I can go back, look at Amazon and make sure that the charges line up. If for some reason things aren't lining up, I know to delve a little bit deeper, contact Amazon, contact my bank, maybe kill that charge or do an investigation until I can figure out what's happening with it. But the text alerts, I think, are really important. And as I said, it only takes a couple of seconds for me to look down and see if that's something I need to pay attention to. And then finally, they have external data sharing. And this is where you can pull access away from anybody that you've given access to. For some of these, like here, there's Plaid, a very popular platform for integration of validating bank accounts and authentication. But this one has been here since 2023. So yeah, that's a long time ago. So I'm going to actually reset my password once the video is over to get rid of that, because I don't want that just sitting out there. I don't know. I don't even remember which service I used this for. It was probably for me to pull something in to do a big data dump into that platform. That is something I'll reset once the video is over. But you can pull that back for anything, and you can see this grayed out for everything else. And then they have learning resources. If you wanted to find out more about some of the security specific tools at your disposal, multi-factor authentication, the transfer lock, the security text, and the voice biometrics. All of those are things that Fidelity has implemented. The voice piece is very interesting to me. Won't cover it here, but that's something to look into. And then finally, you have more resources. Again, this is the housekeeping that Fidelity is doing as a brokerage, things that they have to tell you about. So they have their compliance reporting piece, and then privacy. The bottom line is you got no privacy when you get right down to it. These people, they take your data and they send it out everywhere. So it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. The language is kind of finicky, and there's a lot of prevarication that takes place when you're dealing with a lot of these institutions and companies where they lead you to believe things that aren't necessarily true with the language that they use and how the data is presented. Again, if you're like me, just make the assumption that your data is not secure and everybody has access to it, and you need to do everything you can to try to make it as hard for threat actors to compromise anything that you have as you can. So that's it. If you're like me and you don't have a lot of electronic transfers coming in and out of an account, it makes sense to turn that money transfer lock on and leave it on. The bad guys are continually gaining access to more sophisticated tools, and these tools have low to no cost and they're very easy to use. Every layer of security you add helps to protect what you've worked for and earned. Good luck with your investing journey, and thanks for watching.